On impeachment. She's a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, welcome. You represent a swing district. Does that poll of swing states showing majority opposition to impeachment and removal, does that worry you?
So it doesn't worry me. When I came out in favor of an impeachment inquiry as a result of these newest allegations against the president, I felt it was my duty to do so. I have sworn an oath multiple times in my professional career to uphold the Constitution, and this is the next continuation of that. I am, however, getting out and talking to everyone and anyone who wants to talk about the impeachment inquiry, what the status of it is, what it means. Just this week I met with members of the Tea Party in my district to answer their questions. So I think what's really important for those of us who do represent swing districts, and frankly those of us who represent any district, is to be engaged in talking about the status of the inquiry and what this means.
Well, and we've seen a number of swing district Democrats go home and hear from some angry supporters who don't support impeachment. What are you hearing when you talk to Tea Party voters in your district and other people? What are they saying about impeachment?
Voters in my district really run the gamut. We have people who have supported an impeachment inquiry long before I did, and we have people who are totally opposed to it. It really runs the full spectrum. But what I think voters in my district expect and want is a representative who's going to engage directly with them, listen to their concerns, and be accountable for the decisions that we're making. They want honesty and integrity in what we're doing and working towards.
So in pursuit of honesty and integrity, how impactful do you think public hearings in a couple of weeks will be, both in terms of swaying public opinion and maybe combating criticism that this has been done, without transparency?
I think the public hearings are going to be very, very important. We've seen some portions of information become very public, certainly the whistleblower complaint, the transcript memo of the phone call, and also Ambassador Taylor's opening statement have been out in the public. Those are really jarring pieces of information to read. I think it's going to be incredibly important as we're working to ensure the trust of the American people in this process, that they get to hear public hearings, that they get to hear the questions and the answers for themselves.
So CNN reported this week that House Democrats are already discussing the scope of articles of impeachment. What can you tell us about those conversations?
So I haven't been involved in those direct conversations. My hope and expectation is that any articles that are drawn up are specific and are based on facts and evidence, and that when those hearings do become public, that it will be very clear to the American people why the articles that are being drawn up, if any are in fact based on evidence and information that's been gathered throughout these investigations and inquiry.
So as you mentioned, this is part of your constitutional oath to hold the executive accountable for potential abuses of power. However, I've been asking Democrats, I've had on the show this question, I will ask you, separately from that obligation, are you worried that impeachment might actually help the president get reelected? As we know, Bill Clinton, his approval ratings went up during his impeachment inquiry.
For me, I'm a former CIA case officer, and national security is my personal area of focus. And so the allegation against the president that he would have used his position to ask a foreign leader to get information on a political opponent, and that he might have used security assistance dollars to do so, those allegations represent such a significant threat to our national security that we must get to the bottom of it. We must ensure that anyone who's accountable needs to be held accountable. And so for me, this is an issue of national security. This is about upholding our oath. And I have faith in the American people that they want the same, that they want our democracy to mean something, that they want to ensure that no foreign powers are meddling in our elections, and certainly not being invited to do so by the President of the United States.
And speaking of national security, I just want to, before you go, ask you about Trump's contention, his latest declaration that we're doing well in Syria and that ISIS is basically 100% contained. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that's absolutely inaccurate. We were doing well. We had partnered with the Syrian Defense Forces. We had them on the ground fighting ISIS. We had contained ISIS. We had ISIS-hardened fighters in jails. And then we green-lighted the Turks to go into northeast Syria. We watched our allies and the Kurdish forces and the SDF forces fleeing the area. We saw, according to hearings in the Foreign Affairs Committee this week, at least 100 ISIS fighters have escaped from prison. We have been frenetic in our foreign policy, and what we've seen in what we've seen in Syria is just an example of a complete lack of strategy, and not only bad strategy, but actually walking away from good strategy that was working, that was keeping us safe. And we've done it betraying our allies. We've done it breaking what it means, the American handshake, that you can trust us as a partner.
Thank you.
And we're less safe for it.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Essie. Thank you.
Okay.